Good evening, everybody. This is Dennis Aloia, the Godfather of Web Television, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, live for the April 2018 version of my show, Keepin' It Real, where we talk to many, many different types of interesting people from all walks of life. I am still getting comments about a show I did 2 months ago with my good Navy buddy Hal Burke, and it was about the USS Sullivans and the brothers that were lost in World War II. And there's a lot of things that have developed since that show, and we'll be putting out the final version of that show probably in the next week or so, because since we originally did the show, they found the ship that the boys were killed on, the USS Juno, that was sunk in November of 1942 in the Solomon Islands during the Battle for Guadalcanal. The 5 brothers were all killed in action during that same event. So Paul Allen with Microsoft actually found the ship on St. Patrick's Day, which is very ironic. Other than that, we have got a lot of new shows that are coming online. You may have just seen the Frankie Holbrook and Michelle Lee show that preceded this particular show, and they did a fabulous job. They're really great ladies and got a lot of talent and a lot of motivation for what they're involved in. My guest tonight is going to be a gentleman that I found very interesting. He writes a local newspaper column in my local paper. He's a college sociology professor named Melvin Fein. And after we do our short commercial break here, which is going to come up in about 7 or 8 seconds, I'm going to bring Mr. Fein up and introduce you to him. I like to say that he's a voice in the wilderness. He's a diamond in the rough, and I'll tell you why I really describe him that way when he comes up here in just a few minutes. But if you'll stand by and come back shortly, we're going to come right back after this short commercial break.
Please donate to the Hands and Feet Foundation West Side today. This ministry is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization. They feed people everyday hot meals. They give away clothes and food, and they also offer a sanctuary and prayer. Donate to the Hands and Feet Foundation on the West Side, Jacksonville, Florida, right there on 103rd Street. God bless you. Tell them American Hearts Radio sent you. We're on a mission from God.
Please visit Hands and Feet Westside, www.facebook.com/handsandfeet.org, or give them a call at 904-465-5083. 904-465-5083.
Welcome back, everybody, and I'd like to introduce my guest tonight, Professor Melvin Fein.
Or if you prefer, Doctor.
Doctor, okay.
Hey, that's what my students call me.
Really, Doctor?
Oh, yes, I worked for that, damn it.
All right, I'm sorry.
I earned it.
I didn't mean to shortchange
that's
you
on,
on your bona fides.
With my friends, I'm Mel. But,
okay.
Professionally, I'm Doctor.
Doctor, okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, hey, I'm glad you are a doctor, and you absolutely earned it for sure. I've got to bring our audience up to date on your column. Now, you've been writing a column in my local paper, the Cherokee Tribune, up here in Cherokee County, Georgia, for what, about 4 years?
No, it's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years in the Cherokee Tribune and 10 years in the Marietta Daily Journal.
Right.
Right, and what happened is that I got into the MDJ almost by accident.
Yeah.
And then it worked.
It worked.
It worked. I kept on doing it week
Right.
after week. And, work at Kennesaw State, which is in Cobb County.
Right.
And people in Cobb were recognizing me. That's where the journal
Right.
is. And, and my wife was impressed. Okay.
That's always a good thing.
Yes, it is. Okay. And so she said, well, why don't you write for our local paper, too?
Great suggestion.
Okay. And I had a little problem with that because I wondered, could I do 2 columns a week? Because I remembered, Charles Krauthammer.
Yeah.
I admire his
I have
stuff.
his book, actually.
Yep, so do I.
Yeah.
And anyway, when he talked about when he first was asked to do a column, he said, well, only 1 a week. I won't have enough to say for 2 weeks, okay? And so, well, if he can only do it for 1,
Right.
What about me?
Yeah, sure.
Well, as it happens, I'm doing 2 a week now.
Well, I'll tell you, you do a great job. And the reason that I described this gentleman as a voice in the wilderness is, as you probably are all aware, we all have this big impression that all college professors are very left-leaning liberal people. Mel is just the opposite. Dr. Fein is a conservative college professor, which is a rarity in today's world. And I really like what he's all about. What he writes the columns in such a fabulous way. He's got so many people out there in my community that love his columns. And I'll tell you one in particular that I liked. It was your recent column that your wife did not like, you mentioned to me, but it was the one about drug use.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I'm a staunch proponent of the fact that drugs are not an illness, they're a choice. I've always said that. And I'm also a big supporter of capital punishment for drug dealers. Dr. Fein's column pretty much followed that same line. And I've never seen a column like that before or since.
Well, before I got into the college business, which I've been in now for almost 3 decades, I was a clinician, and I worked with people, and I worked at a methadone clinic in New York City, and I saw an awful lot of drugs, deaths.
Right.
And and when you're working as a counselor, you discover what people are all about, and you discover their fears, and you discover that people use drugs to run away from their fears.
As an escape, yeah.
And I grew up thinking of myself as a coward, and it took me a long time to realize I wasn't. And one of the things that opened my eyes was watching how many other people run away from life in one form or another.
And that exactly explains how I personally feel about that issue, because I have had my ups and downs in life. I've got a degree in street sense. I didn't go to get a formal education, didn't have the money or opportunity. And I grew up in a very rough neighborhood on the west side of Chicago, and went to a very rough inner city high school.
Sure.
And, listen, you get married, you have problems, you have kids, you got to take care of everything. Yeah, you got ups and downs, but I never once escaped through alcoholism or drug use. I didn't escape, but I actually did 2 and 3 jobs most of my life to feed my family, and that's how I was raised.
What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take your troubles and turn them into something positive.
Exactly.
Take the lessons, the hard lessons you learned, the school of hard knocks.
That's right.
And make it pay off.
That's right.
In other words, don't run away from it. Stick around. It may take time. You may discover things that you didn't anticipate, but you've got to hang in there. And these people don't. They run away.
And that's sad because, drugs cause early deaths. And as far as the aspect of the drug dealers goes, I used to be a police officer, so I think in those terms in many of my decisions in life. And I firmly have always believed that a drug pusher should get the capital punishment, which is death. And we finally have a president that has said that very thing. Because these people are no different than murderers. They just kill people a little bit slower than if you put a bullet in the back of their head.
Well, they do kill them. I actually saw dozens of deaths. I had one woman who died absolutely right in front of me. I'm busy talking to her, and she's quiet, and, "Are you okay?" No, she was dead. And I've been in the middle of knife fights. Never thought I'd be in the middle of knife fights, but I was. I've had clients hand me their guns to hide it for them. I've been in all kinds of situations I would never have imagined, In my sheltered childhood, this was not what I expected.
You know what comes to mind, Mel, when you say that? You should have wrote a book.
Well, damn it! Oh, my goodness. How did it...
You should have wrote it. You have such fantastic life experiences. You need to put all this in the book.
Well, as it happened, I've only written 17 books.
Is that all?
That's all.
Do you happen to have any of those with you?
And I'm getting ready to publish another 2, and thinking about another 3 or 4 after that. Watch out, world. I'm going to write a library of my own, Okay?
Well,
So where shall I begin?
Well, we just happen to have right out of camera shot 3 of Mel's books. I want you to feature this one first.
You want me to take this one first?
Because this is right up the alley of what we were just talking about. I love the title.
This one is called Unlocking Your Inner Courage. And I hate the title.
You do?
Well, because my original title was Courage for Cowards.
Ah, okay.
Because I'd always thought of myself as a coward. And in fact, that's the way I opened my first chapter. I thought of myself as a coward, and it took a long time for me to realize I wasn't a coward. I grew up with a very brutal father, and he scared the bejesus out of me. My 5th grade teacher would hate me using the word Jesus, but forgive me, okay? Anyway, I wound up doing things in life that I thought of as no big deal. And I mean, for example, I was just saying a little earlier today, when I was in college, I spent almost 11 weeks going around Europe on my own. And I didn't think that took courage. I was frightened. And I said, well, my goodness, how could this can't be courage if you're afraid.
Yeah.
But by golly.
We're going to take a short break. That's Mel's publisher
No,
calling to see how
no.
many books he
Ladies
sold.
and gentlemen, let me finish. No, I want to think. I never turn this off, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain, okay? I never turn this off because I don't give the number out to anybody except my wife. Nobody, okay? And so when I get a call, I know I've just won a fabulous trip to the Caribbean, all right? It's so, if I choose to answer it, I tell them thank you and goodbye.
Okay.
Goodbye, okay?
That's okay. Only on live TV. But we love these moments.
Oh, listen, no, that's what it's supposed to be about.
Exactly. This is why I love live TV. It's unscripted. Anything can happen.
Okay.
But what's this book about?
This book is about how to get courage. It's about how look, a lot of people think that courage is something you're either born with or without. It's not true. First of all, you never want to be somebody who is without fear. That was one of my discoveries. If you do not have fear, you're dead. And I mean that literally. Fear warns us of danger. If you don't have fear, you don't recognize danger, and danger does you in eventually.
Yeah.
So you need to have the fear, but you need to control the fear. You need to use the fear. You need to use it to overcome the danger that you're dealing with. And so developing this kind of thing takes time. And I talk about a process of developing, of gradually facing your fears. For example, I say one of the pieces of advice that people are given is, if you fall off the horse, get right back on.
Right.
That is among the dumbest advice that anybody could ever give you.
Why is that?
Okay, I will explain.
Okay.
All right? It's dumb because if you get right on, you're going to be terrified. And you're going to be more afraid than when you started out.
I have a solution to that.
What is that?
I would shoot the horse. Then I would get on the horse.
Well,
Fear's gone, right?
I'm an animal lover. What can I tell you?
I'm being
the horse alone.
facetious.
What I do, I know. What I say is, no. You take your time. You don't scare yourself. You gradually allow yourself to get used to it without being overwhelmed. And when you're ready, you proceed. This is the problem that people have, why they don't take the time, because they think they've got to do it right away.
Yeah, well,
that's a good point.
Right away. I've got to ask you a couple other things aside from the books, and we're going to get to the other two here shortly. But we've had a conversation or two before the show, and I've always thought that high schools are not doing a very good job of teaching our young people our history. And that was verified by my conversation with the doctor here. He said that they come in to college not knowing our history, not knowing our values, and not knowing about our founding fathers in many cases. So, something is lost here, and all of these kids are going to the socialist attitude instead of the conservative attitude that teaches our values and teaches our history.
It's not only that they don't know about the founding of this country, they don't know anything that happened before they were born. Actually, they don't know anything that happened before they entered their teenage years. It's absolutely amazing. I was walking down the staircase the other day, and a couple of my history colleagues were talking about teaching their students, and they were talking about how these students had never heard of the Great Depression. Now, that was right around the corner, okay? And it had so much relevance to today in terms of understanding our economic situation, why what Franklin Delano Roosevelt did didn't work, and why what Obama did didn't work. And I tell them, Santayana, Santayana famously said, if you don't remember history, you are condemned to repeat it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they know no history, and therefore they make the same mistakes over and over again.
Well, I think that the left in this country over a period of a number of years has taken over the colleges, the way the students think, the courses are presented. And in a lot of cases, I think it's filtered down to the high schools and maybe even the grade schools through the lack of teaching certain subjects that we were used to having taught to us as kids. It doesn't happen anymore. And I want to, this brings me to your second book, Mel. Can you mind bringing that one up?
This one up? Okay.
The forward-looking conservatism.
And don't forget the subtitles. A renegade sociologist speaks up.
That would be you.
That was yes. That's me.
Okay.
In other words, you in your intro you said that I'm unusual. You don't realize how unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly 3% of sociologists are conservative. 3%, and of those, about half are religious conservatives. Only maybe 1.5% are secular conservatives like me. You know, I had a friend of mine who teaches economics in New Orleans, and he tried to do a survey of conservative sociologists, and I think he found 11 nationally.
Amazing.
Okay, no, it's very, very rare. I've stopped going to sociological conferences because I'm tired of being insulted. They had a conference this year in New Orleans, which is a place my wife and I love to go.
Yeah.
But this year the topic was Trump and destroying Trump, quite literally. And they had a bigger turnout than ever because these folks were coming up with all kinds of ways to hate this devil figure, Trump. You know,
it sure didn't happen under the Obama years, and he was a massive failure in 8 years, and he turned this country against each other and did so much wrong and bad that it's going to take a generation to fix.
You know, this book is a compilation of my columns from the MDJ and from the Tribune, and I tried to explain what went wrong with liberalism and to give an alternative in terms of forward-looking conservatism, okay? And most people don't understand what's wrong with liberalism, partly because they never look at any alternatives. They think that only liberalism is nice. You know, anything like conservatism is mean-spirited and stupid. And I mean stupid, okay? And certainly I grew up thinking that way. Once upon a time, I was a socialist. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. You can't not be a socialist in Brooklyn, New York. By the way, just an aside, Bernie Sanders, he grew up in my neighborhood exactly the same time I did. I know how the man thinks, okay? We had the same teachers.
But unlike Bernie, you served in the U.S. Army.
I did indeed.
And that had to be a changing experience for your thought process.
It absolutely was. I went in thinking that soldiers were stupid. I mean, after all, why expose yourself to death? And I came out with respect, understanding these people did these things because they believed in it.
And they loved the country.
And it's more than that. How can I put it to you? If you're really a stupid soldier, you're also a dead soldier.
Very good chance, yes.
Yes. You've got to know what you're doing,
Right.
okay? Because it's a serious business.
Yes.
And you've got to work with people because you cannot win a war by yourself. You know?
Very true.
And so I discovered an awful lot of things that I didn't know. And it did change my way of thinking entirely.
Yeah. That was probably one of your first steps toward being a conservative.
Well, let me get this other book, okay?
I'm glad, because I was just about going to ask you about that book, because it's got a title that I love.
Post-Liberalism, The Death of a Dream. In this one, I explain why liberalism cannot work. It has not worked. Socialism has never worked. We've had 2 centuries of experimentation with socialism. It has worked nowhere. Not in Russia, not in China, not in Eastern Europe, not in Cambodia, not in Cuba, not in Tanzania, not in Venezuela.
Right.
Nowhere has it worked. And you would think that liberals who pride themselves on being scientific
And intelligent.
would recognize something is wrong.
Yeah, you would think.
It's not come out the way we predicted.
Right.
But they don't. And they don't recognize, they think some really dumb things like, if you're nice to other people, they will be nice to you. Well, if you've worked in a methadone clinic, you know that's BS.
Yes.
You know that if you treat some people nicely, they will stab you in the back.
Absolutely.
Or occasionally even in the front.
Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So you've got to know the difference between people, and you've got to know there is more than one way that works. It's not that you shouldn't be nice, but you've got to know who to be nice to.
But liberals, by and large, that I have known and met in my life, they don't embrace the truth, and they don't embrace facts, and they live in an alternative world that I call la-la land. The real truth, folks, is there's some evil people in this world. There's some people that want to hurt you, and they're out there. And not everybody is going to be nice to you just because you're nice to them. It doesn't work that way. This is the real world. People have been fighting wars since the cave eras.
You know, look at what Donald Trump is doing with North Korea.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not going to be nice to you anymore. You're not nice people. I'm not going to bribe you with all kinds of goodies because you're just going to use that against me.
Exactly.
You're going to perceive it as weakness. Okay? I'm going to let you know, don't mess with me.
And I think he really convinced the man when he sent 3 nuclear aircraft carriers over there with their own fleets or task forces, along with nuclear submarines that had commandos already on them, and B-1 bombers from Guam and B-52s. You know, he was pulling out all the stops. He's going to do what he needs to do to protect the American country, and that's his #1 job. And I respect him immensely for it, because every other administration before him just passed the buck. That includes Republicans as well as Democrats. And he's fixing the problem, folks. He's a fixer. He's a doer. He's not a politician.
And there's something else about liberalism. Look, I wrote a book. I wrote many books about this. Look, one of the things that liberals believe in is helping people. Barack Obama, we've got to be other people's keeper, okay? We say to them, we have food stamps for you, and we encourage them, go use food stamps. Go be dependent upon us. We will be your big daddy, and we will take care of you. All you need to do is give up your independence and give up your freedom.
And your soul.
And your soul, that's right. You will have no future because you have given it over to us. That is just one of the most
modern
evil,
slavery.
That's right. It's evil.
It's evil.
These people who talk about being good people are absolutely evil, and they are tearing our country apart. They don't realize it. Many of them will never realize it. They will go to their grave proudly waving their socialist banners, thinking, oh, if only we had been able to win, without realizing that their own programs condemned them to lose.
Exactly. And you know, you've got 2 major projects that I want to point out that are you're taking a literal stand against this with the young people in this country through a couple of educational projects, and I'd like you to expand on that, Mel.
All right. I have started a foundation, the Social Individualism Foundation. The premise is that if we're going to survive in this society, we have to save ourselves. We have to depend upon ourselves. We need the personal strength and the knowledge and the moral principles to do that for ourselves, and that we are capable of doing that. And to this end, I'm starting 2 initiatives. One of them is called the E Pluribus Unum Project. The idea is to teach basic core principles that everyone, including liberals, should subscribe to. Principles that we need to hold our society together. And these are 5 basic principles. 1, honesty. 2, personal responsibility. 3, fairness, as defined by same rules for everybody, not equality, same rules for everybody. 4, liberty. And 5, family values, family stability. Those 5 things we need to start teaching in our schools to young people if we're going to hold our society together.
Well, I'll make a statement here, and I'm sure my son will back me up. He's the CEO of this network. We will do anything that we can possibly do to promote those projects on this network. You just let us know how we can help, and we will do it.
Let me tell you, hey, I'm going to take your up on it because I'm...
Okay.
Let me share the other one too, and then I'll get back to this, okay? The other project is based on a book that I'm going to be getting out hopefully in the fall on marriage. In other words, the other one is what I call the voluntary intimacy project. Because we know that marriages are in trouble in our society. I mean to say, half of marriages end in divorce, but it's worse than that because almost half of people cohabit. And what's really horrible is that more than half of our children are born out of wedlock and raised by single parents. This is a disaster of the first magnitude, in large part because young people don't know how to make marriages work. And this is why I talk about voluntary intimacy. Nowadays, we get married only because we want to. You don't have to get married, even if you're a woman. Once you needed a husband to take care of you, now you're going to get a job. You can take care of yourself if you want to, okay? And so both men and women can take care of themselves. Men can eat in restaurants. They don't need a wife to cook for them, okay? So you get married because you want to. You stay married because you know how to. Because there's a lot of wear and tear in marriages.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a marriage with no disagreements. Does not happen.
I'm living proof.
Okay, everybody is living proof. It really doesn't happen. But young people don't know that, and they don't know how to deal with these things because nobody is telling them. Okay? And so that's another way. In other words, basically what's bothering me is our society, thanks to the liberals, is almost literally tearing itself apart.
Yeah.
We're breaking
From the
down
inside
into these
out.
little communities, little selfish communities where everybody's me, give me a bigger slice of the pie.
Right.
And they're undermining the integrity, and if I may steal a word from Donald Trump, the greatness of America.
Very well said.
We cannot be great if we cannot hang together despite our differences.
Yeah.
And so this is what the social individualism foundation is about. By the way, you can send me money so I can pay this guy to use his network, okay? Okay?
Tell the viewers how they can get a hold of your books.
Okay. Well, my books are available on Amazon.com.
Okay.
And by the way, they're cheap, especially this one. Cheap, cheap, cheap.
Okay.
Actually, this one's even cheaper.
Okay.
So you can get them cheap. But you can also contribute to my foundation. Okay? We're at Box 5043. That's the Social Individual Foundation. Box 5043, Canton, Georgia, 30114.
Now, how can they support the E Pluribus Unum Foundation? I'm really interested in that.
If you send money to the foundation, that's what the foundation is going to use the money for.
Okay.
For example, in order to do the E Pluribus Unum Foundation thing, see, it's all well and good for me to write a book like this, but most people are not going to read these books.
Well, I love the name because everybody pretty much knows E Pluribus Unum has to do with our country, our flag, and our values. Right. And have you considered doing an event locally to try to raise awareness for it? We could cover the event with the network and promote it.
That's an idea. I'm actually open to all kinds of ideas because, look,
I'd love to do that.
Because I've been thinking you got to do. I'm trying to launch a podcast. I haven't yet gone on Facebook. I have started tweeting, yay team, under my name, by the way, Melvin Fein. No, I am at the stage of I will look for any. I believe in trying things.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily what's going to work. Let's see.
We have a worldwide, and I'm literally saying this because it's literally true. We have a worldwide viewership. We reach people in the United Kingdom, Germany, South America. I've talked to people in Scotland during live broadcasts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have had, so far this year, about 380,000 hits on the network. It may be more now, actually. Now, how many individual hits we get on this show, I don't know. I know that we're the highest rated show in its time slot on the internet.
Well, now that's... Amen to that. And oh, by the way, one more little ad for me, okay? If you want to read my columns, I post them every week on professionalized.blogspot.com. That's professionalized.blogspot.com. You don't have to come down here to Georgia and grab the Tribune or the MBJ.
He's got a great column, folks. It's the one when I get the paper, this is the page I go to. Not even the front page. I go to Mel's column. Doctor, thank you for being my guest. You're wonderful.
Thank you
I
for
want you
inviting
to come
me.
back after a bit when we get this Pluribus Unum project going. And I'd like to give our staff,
if you want to help
people
me,
out there,
or
an
anybody
update.
out in TV land wants to help me, get in touch with me, okay? Actually, you can do it to me directly. I'm at mfein@kennesaw.edu, okay? So I need help, not just money, help, because
Boots on the ground.
nobody is a one-man band.
If you want your kids and grandkids to get the real deal and get some real good education about our country and that would apply to the future of this country after we're long gone, I think you need to really look to contacting Professor or Dr. Fein and finding out more about his passions that he's bringing to us. The one thing I hate about my show is it runs too quickly. We're out of time.
So much.
But I do hope you'll consider coming back sometime down the road and giving us an update on how things are going, okay? And we're going to help you.
Amen. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Folks, tune in next month. I'll have another special guest coming your way that you'll find very interesting. I want to thank you for joining us. And remember, I'm the godfather of web television, Dennis Aloia. Have a great month. Take care. Bye-bye.